Hey Grains, I wanted to say first and foremost, I really wanted to do a different kind of vlog, but I am so stressed and I cannot focus that I absolutely needed to make this video. Before we begin, I want to mention two things. First of all, I love making YouTube videos. I absolutely love being a YouTuber, creating content, and engaging with you Grains. Second thing is, in this video I'm going to be saying the words male and female quite a bit. Please take this as the traditional sense, and in no way is this discriminatory towards gender identity, so please bear with me. So as of January 2020, YouTube is going to go through major, mega, hyper, giga, huge changes that will negatively impact the craft, DIY, and artsy community. Maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but so far they haven't given us much information, and the person I talked to at YouTube mentioned some pretty scary things. So the question is...
But Jackie, what's going on right now?
Recently, the FTC fined YouTube $170 million for collecting data on children. And thanks to that data, they were serving up ads that were tailored to the viewership of those kids. Mind you though, there's YouTube Kids, but the FTC doesn't necessarily take that in consideration. And if you're still confused, Bluebird on Twitter basically summed it up pretty nicely. Essentially, if YouTube thinks your content is aimed at kids, for example, if you use dolls, kids' toys, etc., they'll cut off personalized ads, and you won't be able to comment on videos, and you'll have minimum engagement with the creators, and the creators won't be earning anything, basically. Even though YouTube's policy is saying that they're aiming to go after channels that aim directly at kids' content, the category in which they are putting us all together is actually pretty frightening. One of the articles that I read from vidIQ says, by January 2020, any channels creating child-focused content such as nursery rhymes, learning games, slime stuff, gaming walkthroughs, dress-up, and thousands of other topics must very clearly label any videos as being aimed at kids. The ability to enable comments and notifications will also be removed. One of the things I want to focus on is how broad the idea of what child-focused means. If you see in there nursery rhymes, it does make sense. Learning games and dress up, yes, those make sense. But then when you put in slime type videos, we're starting to get into the territory of DIYs and crafts, which means that some of your favorite channels like Mariah Elizabeth and Delightful fall into the category of child appealing content. And when I asked my contact at YouTube, what does that mean? It means that we have to completely change our topics. And just to give an example, when I asked about my background right here, I was told that the machine learning that would be able to flag my content as child content would take in consideration that I have characters in the back, which means it would possibly flag me as child content because I have characters. It doesn't take into consideration that I'm a geek. And since my channel does reviews of craft and crap kits, I'm automatically lumped in to the at risk of child appealing content. Even though I make my content for those of you who are able to buy these items, and I know that many of you Grains are between the ages of 18 and over, according to YouTube, YouTube will treat data from anyone watching children's content on YouTube as coming from a child, regardless of the age of the user. So if they think that your content is child appealing, even if you are 65 years old and you're watching that content, they're going to count you as a child viewer. That's scary. Another thing I'd love to see from YouTube is instead of punishing the creators, why not just put measures on the actual app that would make it harder for children to be able to access content? Why not make it so that the app itself can get fingerprint recognition from the person that the phone belongs to in order to unlock access to all the other content on YouTube? Or if you don't want to do fingerprint access on the actual app, why not an extra PIN code? And that PIN code would actually expire after a certain amount of time. So if the kid does pick up a parent's phone, they wouldn't have access to non-children content. There are so many different possibilities to go about this. What they're doing right now seems like panic mode. By the way, for those of you who are interested and want to take action, in the description box below, I wrote a letter to YouTube that you can copy and paste and send it to them, which I will also leave an email down below, just to let them know that you are concerned about this, because come January 2020, many of us DIY crafters will completely not just lose a lot of monetization on our channels, but that means the comments section and notifications will be off. I can't comment, I can't heart your comments, and I spend hours and hours every week going through comments, replying to you Grains as much as possible. So if they remove that from us, we can't communicate anymore. They're removing comment sections from child-friendly content or child-appealing content. So the letter is down below. If you can't copy paste from YouTube, there's going to be a Google Doc. Feel free to go on that, copy paste, send it to that email. Make sure that you tell them specifically if you want also the creators that you really want them to focus to not get rid of. And that's where my biggest problem is. Not just I know my brain is like everywhere. It's just everywhere. My contact at YouTube did say that characters and colors, music, colors in thumbnails, all of these things will be considered into the category of child type content. And since I do a lot of crafts and craft reviews, and my thumbnails are pretty colorful, even though it's because that's best practices, my contact said that I would most likely have to shift my topics, which means craft kits would be considered for kids, even though there's no age limit, or there shouldn't be any age limit for crafting and creativity. Another example, Mariah Elizabeth. She does squishy makeovers. She takes an item and turns it into a work of art that is an expression of who she is. However, because of the theme squishy, she would be put into the category same as slime, which is for children, which means that her channel might also be heavily demonetized, and the comment section completely gone from her channel and videos that would have that topic. Another person who might be affected is Delightful. Yes, you can play with dolls, and that could be a children's type video. But in this case, again, Delightful takes dolls and is using them in a transformative nature, which is again a work of art. But the machine learning and the categories that YouTube is going to be putting us into is one and the same. Dolls equals for kids, regardless of context, which again is really scary. When it comes to creating YouTube videos, YouTube does specifically tell us to know who our target audience is. But now that they're changing it to say that if it's child content, the automatic response would be that whoever's watching it will be considered a child, even if we are not aiming it towards children. There's such a fine line between family-friendly and child-appealing. All this time, we have been building our brand to be safe for families, but now it looks like we probably made the wrong decision based on trying to follow the right kinds of practices. All right, so here's the meat of what I'm trying to say. A lot of us crafty and DIY and artsy YouTubers are predominantly female creators. This whole rule of lumping us into a kids category is very demeaning because it says that crafting, arts, and DIYs are childish. Quite a few of the male DIYers do use different things like welding, woodworking, and heavy machinery. And according to YouTube, that's not necessarily going to be a problem when it comes to January 2020. However, if you're more into the arts and crafts, paintings, sculpting, doll customization, squishy makeovers, you're going to be impacted. Think of the top creators in that category. We are mostly female. If you look at creators like Lord DIY, she's obviously not aiming her content at children, but do kids watch? Yeah. Another top creator, Karina Garcia. What about channels that are like Mariah Elizabeth and Delightful? The language they use and the craft and their art are completely not geared towards kids, but YouTube will deem their topic as childish. And just because you do arts and crafts, it doesn't mean you are a child. Context really matters. How you present the topic should matter more than what the topic is. What if I'm taking slime and turning it into a huge sculpture? Why is slime automatically considered a child product if I can do so many amazing things that are transformative in nature? And why are toys automatically considered childlike? There are so many figurines, collectibles, that you get from San Diego Comic-Con that are really pricey and not considered toys. But the fact that they are characters are automatically lumped into the category of child appealing, which means that the machine might categorize you again as being a child channel. As I stated in my letter, this goes back to the same idea where female-dominated careers made significantly less than male-dominated careers. Or even females within the same career earn less than their male counterparts in the same domain. So suddenly, male creators that would review cars, different kinds of technology, are pretty safe. But for those of us who are female creators who just love arts and crafts, are suddenly at risk to become heavily demonetized because there will not be targeted ads, and suddenly we won't be able to engage with our audience. How is that fair for the most part that a lot of us, again, in the arts and crafts community, we're female for the most part? Again, I am not acknowledging, which means I am, double negatives, that we have amazing male creators in the arts and crafts community, like Jazza, Bobby Duke Arts, Ace of Clay. For the most part, they're pretty safe. But Jazza might also be considered in the at risk, depending on the materials he uses. So for example, if he starts using Play-Doh to make a huge epic sculpture, well, guess what? The word Play-Doh is going to be flagged. And let's say he makes Spider-Man out of that clay, well, Spider-Man is a character. That's also at risk. And again, in my letter, I do say, I urge you to consider finer arts, crafts, and customization as art and education for all ages. The manner in which content is presented should be more important than the item itself. A squishy can be played with, yes, but it can also be turned into a work of art. A craft kit can be played with, yes, but if you're playing with it, it's different than if you're reviewing it for those who are doing the buying power. And again, my contact at YouTube said that we can appeal what the machine says. So if the machine puts us in the kids category, we can appeal, but the decisions, get this, are not reversible. That is what the person at YouTube said. Decisions that are made by the machine can be appealed, but are not reversible. That's scary. But it is not fair for the amount of work that we've put into our channels to just be wiped out because we would be considered targeting children if we are not targeting children. So this is a rally for all of us here in the craft, art, and DIY community to please, maybe I'm making assumptions here, but because of the information I got from my contact at YouTube and the vague information that they've broadly said would be considered a kind of child appealing content, I'm having a hard time sleeping at night. And I've cried quite a bit. Like I've cried, but now I'm here for the fight. So I am begging you, Grains, please send YouTube the letter that I'm posting down below to the email that I'm also leaving down below. Let them know that this is something that you are concerned about. I just don't want to see the art and craft and DIY community disappear because of this assumption that creating something and expressing something in a female kind of way is childish. So the manner the content is presented should matter more than what is on screen, because again, it's going to be machine decided. And the machine is going to look at characters, colors, music, and materials objectively, as opposed to the subjective way in which we present it. And so again, I feel like this is going to hurt a lot of female creators. Most of us, again, are quite creative. And by putting our hobbies and what we love to do as childish, that's quite discriminatory. Even though I'm quite stressed about this and I have no idea what's going to happen, I am going to eventually think of shifting my channel. I don't want to lose you, Grains. I don't want to stop communicating with you. I don't want to not have the comment section anymore. I don't want us to stop having these awesome inside jokes that we have together. And so there might be a possibility where I might just have to remove my background and make sure that I don't have Psyduck in the background, or All Might, or craft kits, or colorful things anymore. And I might not be able to ever use Play-Doh again to try and make an epic sculpture, or review craft kits by Scholastic for those of you who are interested in getting them as gifts or even for yourself. Getting these things realistically costs money, and if I can't have ads on my videos, I can't buy them. So in the next few months, bear with me. I will be trying to experiment different things, even though a lot of you might be asking, why don't you just do adult craft kits? Well, they're boring, and there's very few and far in between, like making a bowl out of string. And again, what blurs the line between what is for children, I mean polymer clay, for children versus someone who wants to create an artistic piece, oh my god. The lines are so blurred that whatever we would consider a normal item could be categorized into the children's category. So it's really not fair for a lot of us who are female DIYers to be considered as childish, simply because that's what many of us might gravitate towards. Again, I'm not forgetting that we have our male creative people and our male creators. I'm just saying, if you look at the top DIY channels here on YouTube, you'll see a pattern. Oh, my brain is all over the place. But I will be mostly shifting content to try and make sure that come January 2020, I don't lose you, Grains. I don't want to lose you. And I also want to be building my vlog channel a lot more. Maybe this will be a completely different topic now. I mean, this video is sacrificial because I have characters in the background and my hair just doesn't want to cooperate today. So this video will most likely come the new year be flagged for all the characters displayed. Spam them with that letter if you need to, just so that at least we're preventative. Until then, I will see you, Grains, in the next video.